Okay, good afternoon, and very nice to see you all here. So they said I will chair the session and I will speak, so I'm in control of everything. I'm very honored, I've been very pleased to be here. I worked at the University of East London exactly 10 years ago. So 10 years plus 2 months, so it's been a very nice experience with Professor Sonny Nawanko at the time. I'm not making you old, so you are still in East London. But I was very pleased and impressed with what I have been seeing in the last 10 years of how East London, I think Nancy in the morning also mentioned how East London is embracing diversity, and it was one of my best 4 years or 3 years here at East London. Then I moved to Brighton, the University of Sussex, and I know I have to mention both of them because politically I have been asked, you have to make sure you mention both of them, because I also worked in Brighton for this Institute of Knowledge Management in the Middle East. But my full-time job, permanent one, is in the University of Sussex in the Science and Technology Policy Research Unit. It's called SPRU. Now, when I saw the conference, what interests me about the conference, number one, is looking into the issues of diversity from a global perspective. Because I strongly believe in the last 10, 15, 20 years, globalization brought us together, which is a good thing, but at the same time, not everyone benefited from globalization, or we did not all benefit from globalization equally the same. That in itself, there's an issue of diversity here. But what's more important about this conference or this event is looking into ICT and globalization. And I think that's very important because everything now is being driven by technology, particularly businesses, and ICT had a major role in businesses, education, development, sustainable development. And seeing that from the lens of a global village, I think that's very interesting as well. So I will do my best to try to cover these 4 issues very quickly. I will start by giving an overview, setting the theme of what I want to bring to this debate going on from the morning, fascinating debate. I will quickly look into digital divide and global diversity, and quite important, I think I want to look into what I see as a dilemma for us in the whole world with what is going on in technology. The overview, I'm sure you all from business or from academia or from public sector or NGOs, the way we work now is changing, and I'm sure you all agree with that. We work in different places, different campuses, different countries. Most universities in the UK, they have campuses in Dubai and so on and so on. Most importantly, we're dealing with people we don't know, like paying your credit card, doing things, booking your hotel, and so on. So the nature of work is changing. And this is everyone, so the environment in which we are working is changing. And I remember what her name, Nancy, mentioned about that lady from Yahoo. The first thing she did, she stopped working from home. I wish she will do that for my university, because actually I will then start to work less. Actually, I'm sure many academics will agree, if we are not working from home, we will have worked less hours than what we do. I really want her to come and be my dean, so she stopped work from home and we'll just give the university 9 to 5. I'm sure she will get less from us than what we are giving now. So this is all we agreed, cross cultures and so on and so on. The other thing also is being changed dramatically in the way the rule of the game are changing, and I'm sure all businesses have agreed to this. This is how we used to do it in the past. It's more structured, procedure control, more of manufacturing, more of structure-based. But now we are more into knowledge-based. And I remember this conference, Tony Blair at the time, he mentioned in a conference about science in Oxford. And at that time, the last car which manufactured in the UK has been taken by Germany. And they asked him, we lost all our manufacturing base, and his response was, we still holding to knowledge and innovation. So knowledge has become the big trend in everything we do. And I think even non-governmental organizations, all people in the whole world, in businesses, in academia, in NGOs, in development, in the UN, they see this, the way how businesses are changing. With a knowledge base, it is more people, empowering people to do work, be creative, more innovative, and to get them more to participate. And this is what has been happening in the last. Now, one dimension I want to bring to this discussion is, this is a very famous quote from this Nobel laureate in the 1970s. One thing he mentioned here, he said, no matter how you work hard, you are not going to increase your productivity or efficiency unless you use technology. So that's the summary of his work when he gave the speech to the Nobel, when he got the Nobel Prize. he said technology or technical change, he called it, is critical for raising the productivity. But what is the other thing important? He said the government, it has a role to improve or to play in this technical change. So technology is important. You can't increase your productivity or efficiency without technology, but the government is critical in promoting technical change. It's a very long speech. He said, this is one of his other quotes. He said, people who are rich, they find it difficult to understand the behavior of the poor. And I think this is where the diversity issue, when I remember Trevor was mentioning many examples. And I think if you ask yourself, I don't know who is rich, who is poor in this room, but there's many things we don't know why people they do them, because we don't really know why they do them, because we don't know. So, but he was looking at the rich and poor. So this is something we have, and he said economists are no exception. And this is one of the problems when economists are actually in charge of our economy, because they don't understand how poor people are operating. So they don't understand how to change things. I thought I will mention this before I go further, because there is lots of confusion about information and knowledge. And I thought I will just share my understanding of what we mean by information and what we mean by knowledge. The best or the easiest way to understand it, we have data, is graph, figures. All this morning we're talking about data or data. It is scattered, whether they are numbers, gender, male, female, whatever it is. It is not organized. If we organize it, it will give us information. But how this information will then become knowledge, we use a process, we transform this into something, we call it knowledge, but that knowledge, it got two conditions. It's available at the time we need to use it to take decision, and also it is the last thing will help us to take decisions. Imagine the CEO of a company. He doesn't need to know how many females, he doesn't need to know, or at the time he wants to take decision, whether they are males or female, disabled or not disabled, black or white, that's not the time. This kind of information is not useful to him at the time of decision, but he needs to have the aggregate figures. What he needs to do. What does it mean having a majority overwhelmingly black or disabled or not? What does it mean they are geographically in London and so on? That's what it needs. He needs knowledge. That's what so there are overlap between knowledge and innovation. There are every talking about information and knowledge, but this is the easiest way to understand them. Scatter data, organized to make information. We process or transform this information to make it knowledge. This is very famous survey done with CEOs from companies in 2009. Many knowledge companies, they refer to it because it does just make the case for ICT. This is not about diversity, but about ICT, role of ICT in business. And you can see 61% they said we would like to have knowledge and information is so important in the organization because it will help us to share the content. And you'll be surprised. I stopped over for 2 days in Sudan last month. And when I told the person in Sudan I'm going to be there tomorrow, he wanted to see me. He said to me, my CEO would like to see you. And they called me from the airport. They took me to the office, a big one of the multinationals they do in agriculture and so on. And he said to me, over the last 70 years, the CEO, in a 1 hour meeting with my luggage before I go home, he said to me, we have compounded huge amount of our wealth of information. We can't, it's just with people. Some of them retired, some died. And this amount of information, we know it is extremely useful to help us do many projects now in Africa and so on. So sharing the content or the information you have is being agreed by all CEOs. It's the most important reasons why you need to invest in knowledge and innovation. Secondly, it will help you to comply with the regulation, even this diversity regulation. And if you don't have good ICT or information or knowledge management, you cannot comply with general regulations and so on. The third one was improve search. You can easily search within the company. I will talk to this later. Now, this is how people, they think. I mean, we have lots of talk in the morning about digital divide, but what many people, when you talk to them about ICT revolution, they think ICT is actually here, not here. Actually, we went through ICT or information revolution, and we are in a global. What we are witnessing now is not the information revolution; it is a globalization revolution. Many people still don't realize that. They say we are in the technological era, we are in the information revolution. It is not. We went through information a long time ago. But we're still mixing these two together because the benefits of information revolution have not been shared equally across the whole world. So what we are enjoying here, maybe people in Africa or Asia and so on, they still haven't even dreamed of using it. The bandwidth, just take the broadband coverage, the broadband, the strength to open a file like this in most of African countries, it might take you 5 minutes for just that PDF to be uploaded. So that's why people are confused. It is true. Ask anyone from Africa at university, he will say it will take 2-3 minutes just to open a PDF. So this is where, but actually we are here. So we are in the globalization era where there is no borders and so on. Now, this is a definition I took, but this is the best way of understanding. I know you all understand digital divide. I put between two brackets knowledge because I told you knowledge is very much related to information and how they relate to each other. So we always have to talk about knowledge and information. It is just an invisible border, if we call it, or a line between, say, like in Rio de Janeiro, they call it, Poor Rio and the rich Rio. There is a line where they tell you, you're going to the rich part in Rio de Janeiro. The same thing here, you have separate those who can afford ICT and those who cannot, and it has a serious consequence. But one of the bias in the literature, or we all misunderstand, or we always have this bias in our mind, we think actually we in the north, we are always better than those in the south, whatever that south and north mean. And I'm going to show you it's not true. These people in the south are much better than us in the north. I will show you the statistic from the UN now. So this is just one example. This is very recent, 2003, from Measuring Information Society by the International Telecommunication Union. Respected, this is the best authority in information. You can actually look at ICT. And this is about digital natives. And digital natives is a definition used by the UN. More likely, this is the best way to understand it. It's the number of people or population of people between 15 to 24, the young generations, who at least been using the internet for the last 5 years. And the top country is Iceland, but number 3 is Korea, Republic of Korea. And the important thing, the leading country in the whole world in ICT is Korea. It's not the UK. UK, we used to be number 11, we are now number 9. Interestingly more, US is not in the top 10. So this is where I want people to understand we always think we are doing, when it comes to ICT, we are better, but actually this is, and the darker it gets, this is the countries where there is a large population. But of course, if you're talking about China, you will find the percentage is high because there is a large population. But there's countries like Canada, very small population, but the percentage is high because most. So this is the first thing you need to get into account. This is just 3 part of the world from the recent measurement of ICT worldwide. And you can see in Europe, this is exact quote from the report. It says, there is an alarming and remarkable division between East Europe and the rest of Sweden, Norway, and so on. And you can only see that. And if you follow the debate on migration and this issue with the UKIP and so on, when they broadcast countries like Romania and so on, some villages, in my opinion, they are much, much, much poorer than African and Asian countries. What you see on TV when they broadcast them at Newsnight, things I have never seen. I traveled to Pakistan, to Sudan, to Africa, much poorer than people in developing countries, which we call them. These are right in Europe. So there is huge division within Europe. In Latin America and Africa, they share many of the problems, but you can see there is lots of weakness in the political and regulatory environment. This is very important. And we had an ICT minister from Uganda came to Sussex, 2008. He said, everything you just go and buy it in a black market in Uganda. That's why you cannot sell genuine Windows 8 or 2003 or 4. So the regulation is quite important for companies because it's business. Secondly, the existence of large segments of the population with a low skill base. And that's very critical. In this country, there's many families, particularly from ethnic minority, they can't even touch the computer. And it's important because everything here is online now. The same thing in Africa, you have costly access to technology. It's very expensive, by the way. Africa is doing very well, but it's very expensive. Low skill base and also unfavorable business conditions, and so on and so on. Poor development of innovation system, although Brazil is one of the innovation hub now considered in Africa, the existence of large segment of the population. Now, exactly the word finished, I think it's you, Professor, you mentioned solidarity, you remember? That's the exact word used here, 1999, how many, 15 years ago. It still exists. This was a famous talk, and he said globalization brings us to contact with each other, which is a good thing, but there is a danger of two civilizations, one emerging, which is using technology, creating knowledge, and the other one is passively, this is very serious word, passively receiving knowledge, like Africa and some poor developing countries. Somebody is generating and creating knowledge, and somebody is passively receiving. The world it now faces, and he went on in the same, and he says the solution, it's just I didn't have that quote, is we all have to work together, international partnership. We have to, and you'll see that quote again referred to by Jeffrey Sachs. So that exactly the solution. We need, unless we become solid together and we have a partnership, we cannot. So if we go to diversity, this issue of diversity for ICT and knowledge has become, the UN is taking that very seriously, and they think the United Nations approach is not about black and white or women, male and female, but also about disciplines, about young and old. So they brought these 40, they call them the UN, the K-Star, they call it K-Star, because they said knowledge management, knowledge transfer, and so on. And they brought 40 people from different, politicians, young, old, UN system, professor, whatever it is, and NGOs, this is from ODI, and the people from Uganda, from Caribbean, everywhere. And they brought them in Hamilton in 2012 to try to find some commonalities of how we can actually tackle the diversity in knowledge. And they call it K-Star. It's all available online. Just put K-Star and you can read about it. There's lots of work by UNESCO and UN, open access. There's lots of attempts to understand the diversity in ICT. Now, this is interesting from Freedom House. This is 2003. In the countries with the green, internet is free, including Argentina, you can see the US and so on. The yellow is bought free, like Libya, Egypt, Nigeria, and Russia and so on. But some are not free. You can see how many of them. And there's some, we don't have data. Imagine we are in 2013, we don't have data about some countries. So the thing is, you can see there is large number of the yellow and the purple, which is not free. The green is not that much, but you can see the green, Australia, South Africa. South Africa also is an innovation hub in Africa, is being considered. And mostly Europeans and then the US. But the rest of all is partly free or it's not free. So it's not like what we're enjoying here. Now, this is a report, it's available. You can download it free, it's available online. But in order to measure how countries are doing well, this is the methodology. They said we have to look into three things, which is ICT readiness, which is the infrastructure. Why we are doing good here? Because the ICT infrastructure is very good. And then we see ICT use, how we've been using it. Even in the UK, there's lots of programs now in Aberdeen University, big research about how to make sure the whole UK coverage with particular broadband in 2015 and 2020. And then the ICT capability, which is the skills. Because how are you going to run IT without the skills? That's a problem in Africa and Latin America. And they call it ICT Development Index. It used to be called in Digital Opportunity Index. Now they change it because they link it with development. It used to be called Digital Opportunity Index, which gives you an idea how the country overall is doing in terms of ICT. Now they link it with development, and the new, now from last couple of years, they use ICT development, which is called ICI, which is linked with development, and this is a measurement. The first country, as I said to you, was Korea. It's number one. And you can see it's leading the whole way. You can see the Nordic, the Swedish, and the Scandinavian are doing very well. And then you can scroll down. The UK went fine. We went from 11 to 8. And then you can go down. Actually, Japan used to be 11. It's going down. So you can see, and you can see the United States is number 17, despite all this Google and so on. So this is the latest one, 2013. I'm just picking some examples, because this is we use this always when we teach knowledge management. It's a very good example. This is the World Bank statistic, 1990. They looked into Ghana as more likely and stable economy in Africa, and they compare it with the Republic of Korea a long time ago, and they both, at this point, back in the 60s, they have the same GDP. So Ghana and Korea, they were the same in terms of the gross domestic product. And then you can see what happened after that. Ghana is still here, and up to 1990s, and Korea went up. And the whole economists in the World Bank think tank, they said that's all to do with knowledge. So this is a documented report, long time ago. But you can see it's not just before, now they're still doing the same. The same thing happened in Taiwan. And the growth in the industry or in the business side is even much more greater than in the gross domestic product. Now, there are a couple of things cited here. ICT continue to be a key priority area and help the country, Korea, to become a robust economy and overcome the 2008 financial crisis. This is critical. The whole conservative now, one thing they keep repeating back, we have done well with the economy. The economy was a major issue decided in Europe. Korea survived because of ICT. Not that, but more, they have managed to have all the households with the high-speed internet access. The target put by the United Nations to be achieved by 2010-11 is that all countries in the world to make sure at least 50% of the household they have broadband by 2010. Only 5 countries managed to do it. One of them was UAE and Korea. Most European and most others, they haven't done it. Even in the UK, you think we all, more than 50% are connected and we have problems. So Korea is the country where all of them, they have broadband, and one of the highest average advertised broadband speed in the whole world, and most importantly, is help them to drive growth innovation and also transparency, and they become one of the world leaders in ICT export. Business, most of it coming from Korea. So this is a very good example to highlight the diversity in and equality. Now, these are the least connected countries, and you can see predominantly they are Africans, and some of the Asian countries. Most of Europe, the least connected countries are predominantly African. This is where you see the problem. All economists agree, while these are the least connected countries, the potential for ICT in these countries is higher than the potential which can do here in Europe. So most economists, they say, why they are least connected, but the potential ICT can do in these countries, and I have seen it in the University of Khartoum in the medical school, they say they are using WhatsApp. You know this WhatsApp? People are just fun in Africa with the WhatsApp. They text it. So a professor said to them, fine, I will answer you 24 hours. Text me anytime. It's a Sergio. But make sure you use the WhatsApp. If you have any picture or any scan, you don't know what to answer it, just send it to me. And I was sitting with him, he got 2 messages. And I remember the first thing he replied to one of these girls, one of his medical said, number 1, you have made a grammatical mistake, let me correct your English, because he was trying to help them also with the English, because eventually they will have to come and sit for the Royal College of Surgeons and so on in the UK, so they have to improve their language with the WhatsApp. So people think the potential for ICT in Africa, although it is now the least connected, is huge. Now, give you example of UAE. This is number 1 in the whole world, which make a remarkable shift because the government invested heavily. It is number 1 in terms of change. It's moving fast. You can see it went up by 12 steps. Now it is number 33, and it went up 12 steps. You can see most of the countries here which are doing they are progressing well. They are Lebanon, Barbados. Yes, Barbados is doing very well. Most of the Caribbean actually are doing very well. Caribbeans are doing well. St. Lucia is a knowledge economy index is very high, and so on. These are very small islands. They are very fragile islands. And then you look into the countries, but you can see also here, Australia is doing well, Bangladesh is doing, by the way, Bangladesh is also doing well, Oman, so there are a mix of countries, but this is the top 10 countries which are moving higher in the scale in terms of ICT. But if we look to the UAE one, which is the leader, the government, they said by 2020 and then 2030, they need to be one of the top 5 countries in the whole world. And they looked into each target and they tried to invest. So in UAE, it is a leader in the Arab countries. It is one of the 5 countries worldwide managed to get the 50% broadband in houses, and they are progressing very well. The first one to do knowledge management, actually, proper system, and so on. Take into account, this is one of the richest countries in the whole world, one of the highest GDP in the whole world. But somehow they got the message. You have the oil, but this oil is an environmentally related item, one day it will not be there. Imagine a message. These people are there. We British and American go to UAE, do the whole business for them, and they understand the message better than us. Everyone I met there was either British or American or other Europeans. But they're getting the message, and they said, fine, let's better invest now before we get this oil out of there's no oil. The same what happened in Sudan. When they had the oil, the World Bank advice was simple, is spend and invest this money in agriculture. Before the war, and eventually they didn't do anything, and now they're still struggling. So this country, they did the opposite. They invested in knowledge while they have the oil. And you can see how it helped them. Now, diversity. Just for the time, when I ask many people, where can you see on any road, on a street you are walking, this is a picture of just a small, like a corner shop, you call it here in the UK. This is in India. Everywhere in India. And these books, you buy them for £2, £3. When I was in East London, I remember, this is very well, there are lots of students coming from India through the program. The textbook for international business, which used to be £45, they bring it from India for £2, £3. So in India, this is a book you find them across the street. ICT in India is one of the countries you can give as an example. And this was from the Silicon Valley. I know it's small. Graduates from UK universities are being employed by UK firms to work in offshore India call centers. Because the idea of the call centers worked very well for British and European business, but then there was a cultural clash, because when they call, still people, they would like to be received by a British accent and so on, and it causes lots of problems. And then some companies, they closed down, like Abbey National, they closed their call centers and returned back to the UK. Some, they said, we will continue, but if the problem was a clash of culture, we will just gain them with people who can speak English. Also have the English accent. And so, but they were employing people. So India is employing our own graduates to work in India. That means call center, there are lots of controversial with call center because they consume lots of energy. The way the centers are working is inhumane. Some people accuse them of having people sitting there 24 hours. But the issues of ICT. Now, where is the problem? The problem is most of ICT and knowledge management projects so far, they have been associated with high failure rate. Anyone knows how high this rate is? That's the first thing when you're making your case for a government to invest, failure rate is very high. So what are we talking about? Remember, we're talking about failure rate in OECD countries, because in Africa and so on, they don't have knowledge or ICT project. We call about UK, Europe, Scandinavia. So roughly, how do you think? 10, 20%, 30?
Over 90%.
It's 83%, but the actual statistic is 80 plus. This is the first problem when it comes about ICT investment, is that most of the ICT knowledge management projects so far failed by more than 80%. And that's documented. Even there is a big project in Manchester University for the UN for ICT for development. Now, there are lots of free issues. I will go quickly because I just want to go to the scene. Lack of awareness and understanding. Some people, they think this ICT is like social media, the Facebook, and so on and so on. Today in the paper, our chief, what's his name, the MI5, he was talking about Facebook, how serious the Facebook. These things, social media is very serious tools these days. Very serious. The American, not American airline, the other one, United. You remember that story? One of the guys who used to, the one who sing on the street and you give them money. He was traveling from Philadelphia or somewhere. When he arrived, he found his guitar broken. He went to United. It's in YouTube. You can watch it. Yeah. He went to the company complaining, "You broken my guitar." Actually, the song is called "United Broken My Guitar," and he put him on hold. And this is one of the weird things about airlines. If you are calling to buy, everyone will answer you. If you are calling for customer service, you have to stay hundreds of hours. Oh no, we didn't break it. Blah blah blah. It took him 6 months. He couldn't get anywhere. And his argument is simple. It's a very simple customer's argument. He said, "I gave it to you intact. You gave it to me broken. So you broke my guitar. It's not me." And actually, when he fed up with them, he couldn't get anywhere. They don't trust him. They don't answer him. They don't process his claim. He went and made a song United broke up my guitar. And that went on YouTube by millions. Then United called him. They said, how much do you want to take this video? So we're talking about very serious tools. Therefore, the lack of understanding of these tools is very important. Lack of time. CEOs in many companies, CEOs, this is a problem. They say to you, it's not a priority. Because they don't understand it, so they don't think it's a priority. One of the things I wanted to say to Trevor, and I said it at the University of Sussex last 2 months, they said they want to do a diversity and equality group. The problem is, and this is the fact I'm in academia, but in most academia, these things are, if they are not challenged or taken a leadership by the dean or the university vice chancellor, they will never see the light. And the first thing I said to her, where is the head of the school? I only came here because I saw their name, the head of the school, head of departments. All of them, they were not there. The head of the department, the head of the school, all the directors, when they done the research exercise, you'll see them all there. If they are not there, simply you will not get anyone to take part of it. And it's dead. So if people, they don't think it's a priority, we will never going to have equality and diversity implemented. And the problem is that this leadership needs to come from the top. If the vice chancellor, or if that's why I raise this noon center, because I can see the director, the head of the school, the deputy, they are pushing into this agenda. That's why they succeeded. But in many universities, it's a very nice slogan. If you go to any university, click on the HR department, you'll find something about diversity and equality. Most companies, they do this CRM just for, I have seen them, many of them, they do it more of a show-up. What we have done with most of this. I called Emirates airline one day, and I managed to speak to one of the deputy marketing. I said, we do sustainable development. We have a conference in Emirates. We need you to sponsor flight to people from development. Don't give us money. Your flights are going everywhere. It was one of the best airlines, Emirates airline. Just pick me some people for free from Nigeria, from Sri Lanka. He said to me, no, we already have our sponsorship programs covered because they sponsor football. So you can see even he doesn't even want to listen. And I'm not asking you for money, just to give people free flight. The airline is already going to countries in Africa. Just take one. Turkish airline, they did it. They flew 2 for us before. Imagine Turkish airline is flying to London and you have a conference here. We don't want you to give us money. Just put somebody on that plane. He's a professor. He's coming to present a paper. Just give you a ticket. We don't need anything. It's very easy. If you don't have a seat, you don't have a seat. Now, so this is another thing, the priority important. The other thing is lack of strong management support. And we all know that. If the CEO is keen, he or she will support it. He only needs to support it by maybe just simply sending an email. Or if the email going to staff, let that email come from your mailbox, not from the school manager. I'm not underestimating anyone, but we know that when I am staff, when I see something coming from my dean, I know I have to read it. Or this is something I have to read. Why not? You said that's what I said to them. The first one, culture and change management. This is critical because in order to manage all these challenges, you need to have understanding of the culture and how to manage transformation because it's all about transformation. That example, that guy from the director of the Asian Network, yes, he's right. This iPad, you can have all your life in that iPad. And I found it very surprising. Many CEOs, they don't have iPads. They buy it for their kids in the house, but they don't have it. That iPad, you can have all your emails, you can have all your business there. Forget the business, just have your emails. Your bank account, everything set up and have it with you, don't lose it. When you come like here, you can go to that room, plug into your Wi-Fi. It's secure enough to get you to your business. It's better than the mobile phone. But they don't realize how useful this 200 or 300 pound item. So that's another thing. Opposition of technology activists, and this is more actually in developing countries. In developing countries, you get more opposition to technology from the research we have done than in the developed countries. And also this is because of the culture and the cycle of the ice cube Trevor was mentioning. The culture here, people are grown up. My daughter knows much more about ICT than I was 20 or 23 years old. So that means they can easily accept, not oppose technology. In developing countries, they do oppose technology because they think they might lose their job. Oh, I am old enough to learn computers, so they will bring a young guy to take my job. I might lose control of this group, and so on and so on. You have lots of opposition to technologies. And the other thing is funding. We're talking about ICT, and I will tell you why they are very expensive. And the problem with ICT companies, They always try. They have to. This is a business. They have to make money, and the timing and the others. You have to choose the right timing. Now, this is a cover from the Economist. You know the whole journal. In 2006, they said the African continent now is suffering from ICT, if you like, and the revolution of ICT and technology is the main challenge for Africa. It's not really poverty or fight or wars. That was this article in 2006. So they said Africa now is a hopeless country. They have problem with war, poverty, and so on. But now their main problem is really to have a grip or to have access, to have a good infrastructure which can relate to ICT. Now, I don't know why we have this one here, but now this is the important thing here. This is what I said to the UN conference in front of them. I said to them, this is your own report, not me. This is a United Nations report in 1998. New ICT products and applications are frequently designed in ignorance of developing countries' realities and fail, imagine the word fail, people, they don't use it easy, to address the needs of the most disadvantaged section of the community. So this is the UN itself, which is trying to help. This is what they think the situation. Now, the second thing is, again, industrialized countries have been dominant in technology, and their interest in the developing countries has often been with the profitability of their own business enterprise than with any broader goals concerning development of the respective countries. And that's why for the diversity, this is what I said. I think, it's just I'm not saying I'm not campaigner, but if I want to get diversity in my institution, I think this is what we need to do, is we have to show it clearly it's going to bring money. If I talk to any CEO, to convince him to deploy or to implement KM, CEO, he will sit with you in this room for 5 minutes. You have to talk to him about money. He doesn't listen. If you talk to him about diversity, colorful team, you will be on the BBC every day highlighted, you will get awards, you will get everything. Trust me, he will never, he will say, oh yeah, that's fine. But the only talk, he will then cancel his meeting to carry on with you if you talk to him about money. And they will say it to you, and you can't blame them. I am a business person. I need to maximize my profit. So that's the other thing. You have to make the case very clear. This is the United Kingdom Science and Technology Committee. I gave a witness statement to this committee back in 2004. That's the last time I was in UAL before I go to Brighton. And what they did is called Information Free for All. It's a big report available online. And one of the conclusions, they said, digital-only environment, like now we have in the UK, everything is digitalized, all documents we can download and so on. Digital-only environment would exclude over 50% of scientists globally. I was in the parliament. We were invited last two weeks, to meet the president of Ghana. He was giving a talk in the parliament. Because you know Ghana, Accra, the president of Ghana opened Accra for all, as a hub for all the development, if you like, campaign to help this Ebola in West Africa. So he said, which is very good, he opened the borders. Really good. He said, everyone, World Bank, UK, NGOs, fly to Ghana. So he created a life, an airline, if you like, survival line to all West Africa. So he came to the parliament, we went to the meeting, and he said, what's his name, the guy who discovers the virus, the Ebola, he was in there, because he was sitting here next to the president, and the first thing he said, to control Ebola is, he didn't talk about the medical side. He said we need people just to understand basic things. To clean their hands, get rid of dead bodies quickly. We need to have a good system of sewage and so on. So for the United Kingdom Science and Technology Committee, the issue was all these publications, part of solving the issue of ICT in Africa or knowledge, now we are here having them all digitalized. This is one of the diversity issues here. They are becoming a problem for developing countries because they cannot access them. And all publishers here are going online. So this was another issue we have to consider about. The last and not least, global markets, global technology, everything with globalization, it will good, and solidarity, like Professor mentioned earlier, can enrich the lives of people everywhere. It's true. And I keep saying to people, we have a paper I'm quite happy to share with you. We have argued in that paper, also with colleagues from UAL, that many of the problems we have in the world, we cannot get to the bottom of them, we cannot solve them without working with people from developing countries. Ebola is one of them. HIV, malaria, how are you going to control malaria? Climate change, if you don't really work with scientists in Africa and developing countries, because we don't have malaria here. But we have to make, if you really want to get rid of malaria, we have to work in partnership. Even the guy from London School of Tropical Medicine who discovered the virus, he was in West Africa at the time, and that's the only way they managed to discover this virus 20 years ago or so. So this is quite important. So yes, we all agree globalizations will make our life all better. This Barbados, I went to St. Lucia, it's one of the best honeymoon destinations. Yes, they said that, I remember. So the challenge, it will enrich our experience. But if you go to Germany, it's boring. You go to Spain, it's boring. All of them are boring because they are the same European system. You will not see much. You can't go to Brussels again. Once that's it. You can't see nothing new. But if you go to South Africa, you go to Australia, you go to the Caribbean, you'll see different. You go to the Middle East, you'll see differences. The challenge is to ensure that the benefits are shared equitably and that this increasing interdependence work for people, not just for profit. That's the real challenge, I think, for ICT and diversity. I just gave you one example. This is being quoted in many reports. This is from the African universities, and this is a fact. African universities, broadband, they enjoy in a university is the same like what you have in your house or your flat in London. A university, imagine, the power of the broadband they have, and they pay more than us. I know you don't believe me, but you just ask anyone you know from Africa how much the university pay for a broadband, and it's more than what you pay here, and yours is better than the university. In your house, we pay £10 or whatever, 21. Now, there is another issue also for this ICT and diversity. I went to Cambridge. What was very interesting invitation, we went. And the discussion was by the Triple Helix Society, do you prefer, exactly like that, you can see it on the website, do you prefer a mobile phone or a tablet? And they brought us, 4 of us. The debate was, yes, we know technology is good, it will help people, it is a way forward for globalization, for sustainability, but for people in developing countries, do you really have to, this is what we can help them out of the poverty or really giving them international aid? So this is another issue in ICT, why there is a diversity. Now, another issue which is critical, this is prominent scientist, he said, the big problem for us, those who we have, the digital divide we have and those who they don't have, we, the one who we have, we think we know better what those they don't have, what they should do. And the example exactly I quote, he said, it is like I come to your house and tell you, you don't need salt today, you actually need sugar. So if you invite me for coffee in your house, I come to your house, and he said to me, Alam, just 1 second, I'm going to the shop to bring some milk, because you want to give me coffee. I will stop him. Oh, no, you don't need milk, you need to bring orange juice. So this is one of the critical problems for all international development efforts so far. We should really, and if you can see the Home Secretary yesterday, she said one thing. Now, in order to appoint a new chair for this crisis, I call it crisis committee, I will talk to the victims. You should have talked to the victims long time ago. So these are not victims, but these are the people you want to help them. Ask them, sit down with them. We don't sit down with them. This is a major problem. And he said there is nowhere where the role of ICT is more critical than in Africa because it will help to improve. Imagine like this guy from the London Tropical Medicine, the School of Tropical Medicine said, the issues in Ebola for the future, so after we get rid of this episode, clean water, drainage system, education, there's not about vaccine now. Of course, the vaccine is being successful now. The same like George W. Bush, he was jealous. I called him that time when Tony Blair was so successful, creating at the time Commission for Africa, and Tony Blair was being seen more caring with the whole world, bombing Iraq, doing all these things. He said, let me attract some attention. And his first attraction was, he called it the White House Malaria Summit, and in that summit, He said it's now better to go back to the DDT. DDT, one of the chemicals stopped by WHO a long time ago because it caused cancer. So his advice is now, because we can't get rid of this malaria, let's use the DDT again. Of course, he doesn't know anything about science or technology, but he wants to do it. The other alarming thing is we really need to understand this issue. Diversity is there, but it's quite important. I brought this journal. This is one of the leading journals about African affairs. When you go home, just for the time, click on the journals, and you will find the affairs of those Africans are taken by British and American. Even in the education system, there are many professors there, like this guy. He's not here. If you talk about African affairs, let them do their affairs. If you talk about British affairs, all the journal is British. The journal we published that article is called British Journal, or International Journal of British Politics and International Relations, something. The entire editorial board is British, apart from one from Belgium and one from the US. No African, because it's British affairs. But when it comes to African affairs, we do it in Oxford with all British. What about the Africans themselves? And this is being repeated again and again with the Journal of Asian Affairs. All Asian, or not Asian, they are actually British and American. Even their own academic affairs, we don't, their science or knowledge, we don't give them. The same issues here. This is also a prominent scientist. She said the problem, these poor people, because they are very poor, like Ebola. You have seen the pictures on TV. If you give them anything, they will take it. So we have to be very careful when it comes to ICT and technology, because they are poor, they will accept anything. Quickly, there is other challenges for the diversity. I think it's been mentioned in the morning. There is lots of problem for the World Wide Web, which Nancy talked about, because we have these words, as example, they do mean different meanings. So boot can be boot, orange and orange, mind the gap and gap, next and uphill and so on. This is another challenge for diversity when it comes to ICT. And there is millions of these kind of things. But the most important, people from IT, technical background, they will maybe understand this much better. The other problem is when it comes to taxonomy and classification of information and filtering the information. What we call it here taxonomy and ontology. If you take the word orange, it can mean orange as a color, or it can mean orange the mobile phone, or if you go then further to try to classify that orange one, the orange as a fruit, it will take you to a group of fruits like apples and so on. The orange as a color will take you to the other color, green, blah, 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 blah. And then the orange as a phone, it will take you to the other network, like orange, salad, which is a UAE one, and another, and so on. This is a problem, because if you really want to help people with information filtering, this ontology is quite a taxonomy, another issue. The same like we mentioned earlier about people understand words differently and so on. Now, so to conclude, for all people, I think this is all the CEO in that survey, they said, you really need to know what you have. You might have so much of things you can use. You don't need to wait for Alam to come and give you something. Particularly in developed countries, because there's so much we have. In the developing countries, maybe they have the execute, they don't have database, they don't have electronic storage. But here in the UK or in the developed countries, we might have plenty of things in the same CEO, the same company or building. We don't know. That's the first thing I think we need to make sure. Before you embark on ICT infrastructure, money and knowledge management, really you need to find out what do you have. And I remember there's a charity, I can't remember this in Brighton, they said, the charity was very simple. They said, just look into your house, every week they will come to your door, they will leave you on Tuesday, small bag outside. They will come to you, they leave it on Tuesday, they come on Friday, I'm not sure. They will say to you, just look into your house. You will find something you don't need. Just your own house. You normally find things you don't need. Particularly for kids, you keep buying gifts, 40, 30 pounds from, what is this? This is a monster place, by the way. What is it? The kids shop. What is it called? This is a monster, by the way. They're draining money from parents unbelievably. They don't have no discount, nothing. 50, 40 pounds every 2-3 weeks. So they will find plenty of these expensive items. Giving in that box, they will take it somewhere. Not to Africa. They have many poor kids in Brighton, in the UK. Poverty, there is many kids in the UK, they don't have anything to eat. So for example, you really need to check. The second thing is, we looked into all these organizations. We looked into them. I have to say, the good example we have found in knowledge management, they are predominantly American, and interestingly, predominantly with the military. That's why the Americans are so powerful in terms of military. They use knowledge management. This is just one example. Most of the American will, this is the example we find, but you can see that lots of American institutions. We looked into private, public, we looked into companies, small, big. Interestingly, one of the good examples we find at deploying knowledge management is Tehran municipality in Iran. The same like the mayor of London. They have a good knowledge management system. This is what we found. So we looked into all these companies, and all of them agree part of their success is knowledge management. Even the US 8. So they all agreed on that, and they all have some kind of knowledge management business components deployed. Chevron, the DVLA, and now they're going further, and this is from New Zealand and so on. Now, this is a British guy. He's got a famous book, small book, it's not like an academic book. He said you cannot manage knowledge, but he said you will manage the environment. That's what I said to you earlier about change management and culture. He said you cannot manage knowledge, because knowledge, like now, we have knowledge formally, but when we are in the corridor, there's lots of knowledge exchanging between us. So he said it's very difficult to knowledge, but you can manage the environment in which this knowledge is generated, captured, and so on and so on. So that's one argument. But my conclusion here is you have to manage knowledge in a way it can help you to improve the performance of the organization. Generally, with technology, I think we have to take these 5 at least consideration. It has to be easy to learn to use. Like many people keep saying, my daughters know things better than me. These things, they have plenty of things, the mobile phone, the iPhone. Really, it has to be much easier to use, easy to use, to learn to use, easy to be maintained, because they are very expensive. And it has to be something not expensive. And if you can see, over the last, since after the financial crisis, in the last 4 or 5 years, supermarkets like Morrison, as all of them are reducing their prices. Because we can't afford it. It's very expensive. Morrison, they have these 3 weeks vouchers, Asda, and so on. But one of the sectors in the economy which is increasing their prices are mobile phones. And normally the question is, if we are selling to the same consumers, in one side, they can't afford the bill of going to the food, for their food. At the same time, they are willing to spend 60 or 60 or 50 pounds a month over 2 years for a new mobile phones. Because this mobile phone, the big target or the big consumer of mobile phone are young generations, and they are crazy about technology. And for them, they can sacrifice any food. And so for us as a family household, even if you want to buy something for your daughter, teenager or a boy, likely if you ask him or her, he will say, I need a new smartphone. If you give him a DVD, he will not even use it. So this is how, so you have to look into all these things. It has to be small scale. We can start small and then and it has to be compatible with whatever we have. You don't need to go to something which is not compatible with the system. Now, this is the way we think. If this is the organization strategy here, you should have an IT and KM strategy. And then this is where you have the IT as an IT department. And this is, you need support for all this process. Most companies, they don't really have this way of thinking about how to run the organization effectively. But you should have it this way, and the support is critical. And if you really want to have a successful ICT program or knowledge management in the organization, you have to make sure you have enough support, and you have to consider change management. If you want people to work in this pyramid, you have to make sure you deploy good transformation management program which can help you to manage all the changes for people to understand better how things are working. And you should have a performance management. So the CEO, you will say to him, let me do this. And he will ask you, how do I see? You ask me, Alan, to let you, for my staff to share knowledge and blah, blah, blah. How do I manage that? How do I know is producing result? You will say to him, I will give you performance indicators. So if now they are spending 6 hours doing this job, now after 1 year, after we do this or change it, they will do it. Same if they spend 15 minutes with a customer on the front desk, now they will spend 6 or 7 minutes. That will be one of the indicators. But most importantly, you have to avoid the confusion. This is where the knowledge management and ICT or IT come together. They are not one thing, but they are. Now, we did this one. I couldn't bring copy, I forget it, but We have this book. I can send copies for someone if I can send you a link to it. But we have done this to try to show how this model can actually work for organizational excellence. One example, because I know this has been organized by the Noon Center, this is an example from how the role of universities, like the director of the Asian Network said. This university, Berkeley, they have the largest management of technology program in the whole world. And I remember they were given an award in UNIDO in Vienna, but this is 6-7 years ago. What they do, they said for any student doing management of technology program at Berkeley, in your final year projects, you have to choose a country, any country you like. It has to be from the least developing countries, number one. And number two, you have to choose a problem this country is suffering from. And number three, you have to provide solution. That's how you graduate from that program. This is in Berkeley, one of the largest management of technology programs, in order to help understand the issues with the digital divide. They call it like this, digital, when they launched it. They said, if you are in Berkeley, you have the luxury of the best knowledge, you have the luxury of the best professor, you have everything available, any material you can download. You should prove yourself by actually providing solution to a problem in the least developing countries, not a problem in the US. That's a real challenge for you to really prove I have done something. In Nigeria, they have this problem, and this is my suggestion. Not necessarily your suggestion will solve the problem, but you have to prescribe medications for a problem in at least developing countries. And it was being awarded as one of the best programs. That's why I like this program, which was a video about the global scholarship program, because I think that's how you can really improve. You can be different. Students, by the way, are becoming very intelligent. It's becoming boring to bring them in the lecture, teach them. You can see them if you teach big class. I don't know. This is in my Sussex, maybe. Or it might be, I may be boring for them, but you can see lots of laptops are open there. You can't even know what they are watching in these laptops. Students are getting bored because everything is in their laptop. They don't need to go to the library. So you need to think of how you really get them engaged, get them more excited, and more actually give them a board. If you want to teach them what's in the book, they can download it from the library. They don't need you to come and stand in front of them and so on. So this is just one way of example of how universities are doing. I will conclude by Jeffrey Sachs, because he was one of the, I think, well-known quoted sustainable development expert in the world. He gave this to George W. Bush, actually, when he went to the White House. And the first thing he said to George W. Bush at the time, the first thing you need, Mr. President, is to subscribe to Science America, one of the journals. He said the White House needs to subscribe to the journals which can talk about science. Because he thought at that time, George W. Bush had no idea about science, technology, and so on. But this is very interesting. This was said before. Imagine, we have these ICs and this crisis. This was said back how many years now? 6 or 7 years ago. When George W. Bush, the last time of George W. Bush. After Bush, we have Obama. He said, we have been distracted. And I think I agree with him. He said, this is a real problem. Yeah. We have this Ebola now. It's finished. Okay, it will finish soon. We will have another Ebola. Imagine the outcry. Have you seen the anxiety? Although the British scientist, even the guy who discovers the virus himself, he said he has no concern we will have any issues in London. Because it will never happen, because it's so difficult. If somebody brought it or bring it from Ebola, if we are all cleaning our hands, we are very hygienic people, we have good system here, there will be no outbreak. This is a person who discovered the virus. He said there will be no outbreak in London or in the whole Western countries. But still, you can see how it affected us. Anxieties, charities, even kids. My daughter was said to me, let's do something for Ebola, because the way they can see in the news everything. But this is the main issues. It's affecting business. These countries in West Africa, one of the fastest growing in GDP, they're doing very well. Now they're all destroyed. The stigma for foreign direct investment, and so on and so on and so on. One of the reasons, for example, Emirates is attracting lots of business, because it's a very favorable environment, very secure, very clean, internet is there, you go in and out without visa, so much. Why do I go to Sierra Leone or any country where I will struggle my staff for visa, for living, for malaria, and so on and so on? So that's how I think where we need to see this ICT. And I will finish here. I think it's a big complicated topic, but I think I will just go back to the first point is really we need to have a partnership. If we don't have a partnership, this issue will not be solved. I've been told to stop. She said she will come and remind me, but I think I finished before she come and remind me. So my understanding, there is no other speaker. So if you have any question, am I right? There is no other speaker. I'm just myself. If there is any question, I'm happy, but I tried to make it to half an hour, as they told me. I don't know if I have exceeded my half an hour, but all these issues, if you need me, all these reports I refer to, they're available worldwide. Most of them are available online. You can download them. But my whole just overall summary is these issues of ICT and globalization, we should really go deep in understanding them. We should not just be superficial about thinking we are, because we are enjoying everything here, strong connectivity and so on. But the more you travel, yes.
Right.
Anyone?
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Professor. And I actually think, considering this digital divide, okay, that I look at it in terms of introducing it or improving it in developing countries, you mentioned Africa specifically. And I think I will put it under the classical product life cycle. Okay, so where you got introduction, you got the growth stage, you got maturity, and then you got saturation and so on. So if you look at some of these countries, now how they've actually adapted to technology, I'm actually thinking of 3 countries in Africa: Rwanda, Kenya, and Nigeria. Now if you see the way technology has actually transformed farmers in Kenya, okay, whereby they can actually use mobile phone to bid, basically procurement. And then you look at Nigeria, now this money transfer using your mobile phone. Okay, so now they're talking about this cashless society. Now I was very surprised. A few years I went to Nigeria. Now I had my basic mobile phone here that I took there. But when I got there, I was surprised to see the sort of phone that people were using. So they were a lot more advanced to the point that in Nigeria, Samsung has actually manufactured a bespoke mobile phones for Nigeria and other African countries, whereby they have dual SIMs. Okay. So there, they actually use the telephone to do a lot of transactions, business transactions. And then most banks, almost every single bank, is totally computerized. And so you do online transfer anywhere, even in this country. When I want to send money to my relatives, I don't send cash. And I simply stay in my own house and then transfer. Okay, so if you look at that, there are stages. Like in this country, very many years ago, I was involved in North Peckham Task Force project. And the project I was managing was ICT for small businesses, whereby we had the loan scheme, whereby we were learning computers to small businesses, introducing them. So gradually that has taken off. So a lot of people now, a lot of businesses here are using computers. And I think when you look at these countries, they're going through phases, stages. And so the speed of adoption is actually higher over there than here. Because once they know it exists, they want to get hold of it. And 1, 2, 3. Now I went to what they call a Silicon Valley in Abuja. Now, when you go there, what you see is loads and loads of mobile phones and individuals repairing, okay, mobile phones. So I think what the developed world can do is to have a Marshall Plan, because digital divide actually affects global economy. Okay, so if you're up there and then they're down there and you want to do business with them. Now, there is no equalization. It's going to be very difficult. And so having a Marshall Plan whereby a lot of businesses, a lot of individuals, especially educational institutions, are given the opportunity to adopt new technology, to introduce new technology at a very early stage, will help not only the developing world, but also the developed country, and will actually improve the global economy, and then the globalization will be sustained. Without that, I think in the future we will have a problem with globalization.
Yes, it's already there. I think just to take you back, if you remember that the Millennium Development Goals, Kofi Annan introduced the Millennium Declaration, is that all countries, they have to achieve this by 2015, 2010 and 2015. And economists can easily sit down in a room like this, they can work out all these nice indicators, we call them indicators. But whether these indicators, they're actually practically going to be achieved, no one asks them. Many of the time, the United Nations, one of the indicators they produce is that by 2015, for example, all countries should achieve 50% reduction in education, number of kids going to school or women in the school and so on. None of the African countries achieve any of the indicators because the indicators, they are economically sound, but no one even looked into whether people can actually achieve them or not. The same, I said to them, the same like obesity. Every day we hear in this country about obesity is about lifestyle and so on. But, and I said to many people, nutritionists, I said to them, yes, I know I am overweight, but I need somebody who can give me, you know my problem is not that I'm eating that much, but I'm sitting down on a computer or whatever my lifestyle. You cannot just keep telling me you have to change your lifestyle. It's all about lifestyle. I remember there's a professor from Scotland, from Edinburgh. He said it's all to do with genetics, nothing to do with lifestyle. Some people are born to be thin, some people are born. So the only issue is we are not offering actually practical solution. We're just giving people indicators and so on just to do them. And that's where I think the problems. So for Africa, or when it comes to ICT, these indicators are good, but at least all we can do is we can find out why the Koreans are doing well, why UAE is doing well, why South Africa is, and try to learn lessons from them and see how. I was in the news, I don't know if you watch it, the fairest white, I thought I would bring it, I didn't forget to bring the picture. You know, the fairest white African leader in Zambia now. It just happened to be a graduate from Sussex University, my university, so that's why I learned. So there is going to be a white leader democratically elected in Zambia. So it's exactly the equivalent of Barack Obama in the US. So things are changing.
But it wasn't a woman.
Huh?
But it wasn't a woman.
But at least we are one step ahead. For me, that's a remarkable achievement.
That means that's next step, though, isn't it?
It's a very remarkable.
We have a woman now.
It's been announced. Yeah. Next time, you can see him, and you can see he's been warmly welcomed by the. He used to be the deputy prime minister. The president died. He's now going to be the democratically elected white president. Imagine if you can see, this is a remarkable step. Democratically elected white presidents for an African country, which is Zambia. So I think we need to look into the context, I think. The reason is because I think he's the right person to lead the country. So you can see the issues of diversity will start to erode in our conscience, in our way of addressing issues. So you have, I think I can just, because you wanted to ask.
I was going to say, I think it's the last point you made, that context is king, because, you know, I think what struck me was the graph between Korea and Ghana.
Yes.
I'm saying that as a child of Ghanaian parents as well, so that really struck me. And you know, up until it appears to be 1964, there seems to be some comparisons there, so context is king. And I think bearing that in mind, I think one of the other graphs you put up, you said that internet access was free in some parts of the world over others.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you're talking about free in terms of cost, in terms of free in terms of everything's open, everything can filter through.
Yes.
But what are you talking
yes,
about?
That's what we're talking about. Everything can be free, accessing everything.
Okay.
And that's very important, by the way.
And the second point was when you talked about opposition to new technologies. And I'm wondering is everyone included in that that access in the journey to accessing new technologies. I'm saying this from the context, I work in a local authority, and a lot of the things that we do is that we're becoming digital by default. You'll hear this throughout the whole public sector in the UK. Yeah. But what's happening is that people are being left behind. So this is, if you like, it's a microcosm of what's going on globally as well. When we talk about digital by default, we're going to put everything online. I think of my parents, they're both retired public sector workers, you know, highly educated West Africans, but they can't now get parking permits, visitors permits, because it's all online, and for them it's just too much hassle. So either my sisters or my brother do it for them. You know, so when we talk about opposition to new technologies, is the opposition coming because the technologies aren't inclusive of the broader context, or is it just simply because people do not, they're Luddites, if you like?
So for example, like your parents, there is different dimensions. One of them, they will oppose to it because they know they cannot use it. If you go to knock your door at the local authority saying, like parking permit now, even now the road tax, we're going to have to do it online. But the other opposition, that's one side of it. The other dimension, imagine I'm working here in whatever company, I am the one who is doing whatever it is. If you come to me and say your CEO brought you to a meeting like a local authority, he said we're going to introduce a knowledge management where everything will be shared, available to everyone within the organization. Some people, which we call them opposing technology, he will say, okay, I'm now important, if I travel, they cannot do any work. If everything is shared, I might lose my position or prestige in the company. Secondly, if I share everything with everyone, what I'm going to do? And thirdly, he will say, I might share a good thing. So I went to London to a conference, I met Adam, I took this slide, they're very good, but he might share with me the things which are not really useful. He will still keep things in. So there is lots of issues, what we call it, about the opposition to technology. But that's why we mentioned change management is an important one to assure people that, like in academia, the more actually you share your work, the more actually you get feedback from people to improve your work. It not means you will lose the quality of your work. That's the same thing in businesses. Because people worry about ideas and so on. If I share my ideas, they will be stolen. And that's true, by the way, sometimes. But you can, we can carry on. You can ask me if you want, Go ahead and
I was just going to say I work for a local authority in a rural area, ex-coalfields and rural. So I echo what you're saying because, you know, if we ever get 3G in rural Derbyshire, it'd be wonderful. But I've got a whole lot of people who are excluded from what we're doing, and you've got to remember, like, we might have fast broadband, but we don't get a bus going through some of those villages twice a day. You know, it's kind of like, what is connectivity? Because the social is very important to a lot of
Exactly, and I think this is where the local authority, for example, they might think, if they want to do their service all online, like parking permit, it's so easy to do it online now. Why not? You will weigh out the quality of the value for money, maybe to go to these people in their houses. You know, this old generation, they meet in clubs in the morning and so on. That's why we're
doing it.
So you sit down with them, show them the very basic thing, or you say to them, you can every week you bring somebody to go there for half an hour before she go to the office. She stopped by that breakfast morning gathering every 2 weeks, or every week, for example. If anyone want to apply, I can do it with you confidentially, you put your information. So there is many ways. This is what we mean change management. Because you know, if you can solve the problem here in this small coffee break area they have, it's much better than you get them to struggle to come to you. Because when they come to your office, you have to look after them. If they are fragile, to go through the building, all this is your responsibility. Plus, you need to have more satisfaction. And also politically, they will feel more satisfied by the services you provide.
Politics is the important bit there.
Context is king.
My councillors are concerned they won't get elected if they push everything in a certain way. But I've got to say, actually, some of the digital stuff is great because it has given people more citizen power in terms of disabled people's access to the outside world is substantially increased, and they've become highly successful at lobbying to the extent that the debate in the House of Commons here on some of the impact of cuts on disabled people. When you looked on Parliament TV, there was not a soul on the government benches whatsoever because Angela Merkel was here and everybody was there. We all hit Twitter. I happened to be at home. And you know what? We got a couple of front bench ministers suddenly appeared from that because obviously it was trending on Twitter. There's no bugger there, excuse my language. There's no one there. You know, there's just 20 odd MPs of the whole of the House of Commons.
I tell you another way, just quickly, like I mentioned to City Council. For example, I said to them, why not, for example, you use students every place in the UK, every city, at least 1 or 2 universities. the local council can work with the students first year or second year as volunteers.
Yes.
So if I am an old, I can't come to I will call you, your whatever number. I say to you, I would like to renew my car permit, disabled permit. You will take my name, my number, and then there will be a student there. Particularly, there's lots of international students very keen to go and improve their English by talking to. I did it when I came 20 or 30 years ago. You can actually vet them, check them, train them, and part of partnership with the university. They can go and help them to fix the problem. So there is the problem I know in the UK about this issue of accountability, transparency, and the worry of fraud and so on. But that's our society. I think it's a society still clean.
I agree with you.
It's just because we have a strong media. This is what I keep saying. We just have a strong media here. That's how they live. They need to bring the murders, the child abuse. 90% I think of teachers are not abusing children. 90% of this is we have a clean, very
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.